Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with AfriTales 38. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Please relax and enjoy as we dive in the story. It was supposed to be just another order. Kemi stood in her tiny home kitchen, mixing buttercream while humming an old gospel tune. 7 months pregnant, swollen feet, and still baking. She had posed her dreams long ago, but baking was her peace. Then the message came. Hello, I need a 3-tier wedding cake. Urgent. Elegant design. Bride's name, Blake. Kemi's fingers froze mid-type. Blake. She sat down slowly. Rose Blake. It couldn't be. She stared at the name, heart pounding. A chill ran through her arms despite the oven's warmth. Her breath came out shaky. Rose, she whispered, as if saying the name might summon her ghost. Her best friend. Her sister. The one who held her hand through the miscarriage. The one who dried her tears after fights with Deli, her ex-husband. The same Deli who vanished 6 months ago, before she could tell him she was pregnant. Kemi blinked, stunned, as her baby gave a small kick. She placed her hand on her belly. We are okay, she whispered. We are going to be okay. But she wasn't. Not after realizing she was baking a wedding cake for her best friend's wedding to her ex-husband. And she was about to deliver it personally. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC shouted, voice booming over a song that had barely faded. It's time to cut the cake. Applause rippled like champagne bubbles through the decorated hall. Candles flickered. A waiter bumped into a guest with a tray of puff-puffs. The crowd pressed closer. Deli adjusted the sleeves of his silver suit and reached for the knife with his new bride, Rose, all lace and radiance. She giggled, wrapping her fingers over his. They leaned together. To forever, she whispered. The knife sank into the bottom tier. Then, crunch. Rose froze. What was that? Deli pulled back the knife slowly, the tension mounting. He reached inside the cut, his fingers brushing something soft but firm. A velvet pouch. Pulling out a folded sonogram and a note, aged at the corners. His face turned pale. The note trembled in his hands as he read silently. You're going to be a father. Gasps echoed. Rose looked over his shoulder, her smile vanishing. Then his eyes scanned the crowd, frantic, wide, and landed on her. Kemi. She stood near the back, dressed simply, visibly pregnant, her arms cradling her belly like a shield. She didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Their eyes locked. The music died. And the wedding hall, once overflowing with celebration, was smothered in silence. The secret inside. The mixer whirred in the background, but Kemi barely heard it. Uche sat beside her, a spoon of icing halfway to her mouth. You're baking her wedding cake, she asked, eyes wide. You should throw the whole cake in the lagoon. Kemi smiled faintly. I need the money, Uche. Rent's due. Baby things aren't cheap. But why deliver it yourself? Uche leaned in. Kemi, this isn't just business. This is war. Kemi looked at her old locket resting on the shelf, inside, a sonogram photo and a small note she once wrote for Deli, telling him he was going to be a father. I want them to know, she said quietly. Without shouting. Without drama. She stood, opened the locket, placed the sonogram and note in a small velvet pouch, and held it over the bottom tier of the cake. What are you doing? Uche asked. I'm putting the truth where it can't be ignored, Kemi said, eyes sharp. The Hall of Mirrors. The wedding venue sparkled like a dream, white drapes, candles, fresh orchids. Kemi wheeled in the cake through the back entrance. Nobody noticed her. Not yet. But she noticed them. Deli stood in a silver suit, smiling nervously. Rose, glowing in her gown, held his arm like she was claiming victory. Kemi's heart cracked open for the 100th time. They look perfect together, Uche muttered bitterly. Kemi didn't respond. She walked forward, lifted the cover from the cake, and stepped back. They'll find it, she whispered. And when they do, they'll know. The cut that changed everything. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC shouted. It's time to cut the cake. Laughter. Applause. Music. Deli held Rose's hand as they pressed the knife into the bottom tier. A crunch. What's that? Rose asked, frowning. Deli reached inside and pulled out the velvet pouch. Confused, he opened it and saw the sonogram. Then the note. His hands shook. He looked up, scanned the crowd, and saw Kemi. Her face was calm, her belly round, her eyes burning into his. The room fell silent. The run and the reckoning. Kemi. Deli called out, running after her as she walked toward the car park. Kemi, wait. She didn't stop. He grabbed her arm. Is this real? She turned slowly. I tried to tell you. You stopped listening. I didn't know, he said, breathless. Why didn't you come back? You walked out. Before I could tell you. Before I could even understand it myself. He looked at her belly, then back at her eyes. She's mine. She's ours, Kemi said. But she's mine to protect. Shattered vows. Inside, Rose stood frozen, her face pale. She clutched the sonogram like it was poison. You said it was over, she whispered. I didn't know she was pregnant, Deli replied, broken. So you leave her, don't look back, and marry me. Her voice rose. What kind of man are you? Guest whispered. Cameras clicked. A wedding turned to scandal. Kemi. Deli burst out the side exit, his shiny shoes slapping the concrete. Kemi, wait. She kept walking, her long gown brushing against her sandals, belly swaying gently as she moved toward the parking lot like a woman with nothing to prove and nothing to lose. He caught up, reached out, and grabbed her arm, not roughly, but with desperation. She turned slowly, her face unreadable. You planned this, he hissed, breathless. You hid this. You. I tried to tell you, Kemi said quietly, her voice calm like water before a storm. You stopped listening. I didn't know. I didn't know. His voice cracked. Why didn't you come back? Why now? She narrowed her eyes, voice steady. You left before I even heard the words. You left before the test. Before the nausea. Before the heartbeat. You didn't look back. He looked at her belly, then her eyes. She's mine. Kemi blinked slowly. She's ours. But she's mine to protect. Deli looked like he'd been hit with a hammer. And what do you want from me now? Nothing, she said. You got your wedding? I gave you the truth. Kemi, he reached again, but she stepped back. Don't say sorry out of guilt. Say it when you're ready to show up. Her Uber pulled in. She opened the door, hesitated, and looked back once. You don't get to rewrite what happened, Deli. But you can choose what happens next. She slipped into the car and drove away, leaving Deli alone under the blinking street lamp, holding the sonogram like a confession he never saw coming. Kemi didn't wait for the drama. She slipped into her Uber, wiped her tears, and exhaled. The birth of Nia. 2 months later, a baby girl arrived. Kemi named her Nia, meaning purpose. The first time she held her, she whispered, "You were never a mistake. You are my beginning." The bakery grew. People heard the story. Others poured in. Not because she exposed anyone, but because she stood tall. A father's apology. Deli came to visit once. She looks like you, he said, tears in his eyes. She also needs you, Kemi replied. But I don't. He nodded. I'm sorry. I forgive you. But I won't raise her on regret. Only truth. He looked down. I'll support you both. I promise. Start by being present, she said. not perfect. The story behind the frosting. At a small business event, Kemi stood before a crowd of women, holding a whisk instead of a mic. I used to think baking was about sweetness, she said, smiling. But it's about balance. Bitter. Sweet. Salt. Tears. Laughter. The room clapped. She raised her eyes. And sometimes, it's the cake that tells the truth when our mouths stay silent. Rain tapped gently on the windows of Kemi's small flat. The smell of warm banana bread filled the air, mixing with soft baby giggles. Kemi stood by the counter in her apron, her hair tied in a loose bun, piping roses onto a customer's cake. Her fingers moved with precision, but her mind was somewhere else. Nia, now 3 months old, lay in a woven cot nearby, cooing as she kicked her little feet. Kemi glanced at her daughter, heart full. "You're growing too fast, my little doughboy." The baby smiled, as if she understood. Kemi walked over, picked her up, and cradled her against her chest. She swayed gently, humming the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her as a child. "We didn't have much, my love," she whispered into Nia's soft hair. "But we have each other. And that is more than enough." A knock came at the door. It was Uche, carrying a basket of supplies. She stepped in and paused. "Wow. You're glowing, Kemi." Kemi laughed softly. "Sleep-deprived, but surviving." Uche placed the basket on the table and took a good look around. The kitchen, though small, was warm and alive, filled with spice jars, mixing bowls, colorful baby toys, and walls painted in soft yellow. The air smelled of cinnamon, sugar, and second chances. "You've really turned this place into a home," Uche said, picking up a small framed photo on the shelf. It was Kemi, holding newborn Nia at the hospital, her eyes puffy, her smile real. Kemi placed Nia in her baby chair, then returned to her cake. "You know what's funny," she said, tracing a swirl of frosting. "I used to think my story ended the day Deli left. I thought I was broken. I thought no one would want a woman with stretch marks and a child." Uche came closer, quiet now. "But every time I hold this piping bag, every time I see Nia laugh, I realize, this is not the end." She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. "It's just a different kind of beginning." Uche swallowed hard. "You inspire people, Kemi. Do you know how many women follow your story now? You didn't just bake your way out of pain. You baked your way into purpose." Kemi smiled gently. "I didn't plan any of this. I just told the truth. One cake at a time." Then she paused, reached into the cupboard, and pulled out a small tin box. Inside it was the same sonogram photo and note she once tucked into the wedding cake. "I kept this," she said, handing it to Uche. "Not to remember the pain, but to remember the moment I chose strength over silence." Uche looked at the photo and wiped her eyes. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Nia squealed loudly, breaking the mood with pure joy. Kemi laughed and picked her up, kissing her cheek. "One day, Nia," she whispered, "you'll read about how your mama turned heartbreak into healing. And I hope you'll be proud. Not because I was perfect, but because I refused to stay broken." Thank you for watching. Please never forget to subscribe and share. God bless you.